A single night. That's all it takes. One night where everything looks normal, where the world goes to sleep believing tomorrow will be just like today, and then wakes to discover that the U.S. dollar, the most trusted currency on earth, has suddenly lost 50% of its value. Price is double. Savings evaporate, and the global financial system begins to shake like a tower hit by an earthquake. The terrifying part is not that this scenario is fictional. It's that history has shown us, again and again, what happens when a currency's value collapses, and what you're about to hear follows those same patterns in chilling detail. Picture this moment. It's 7 a.m. in New York City. The sky looks the same. People pour coffee, lace their shoes, step out into the usual noise of traffic and morning radio. But their bank apps tell a different story. Numbers haven't changed, but what those numbers can buy has been cut in half. The dollar has fallen so fast, so violently, that most people don't even understand what happened yet. All they feel is the creeping, icy realization that something has gone terribly wrong. The value of their money, their work, their time, their future has been fractured overnight. The collapse begins in the dark, while the world sleeps. At 14 a.m. Eastern Time, traders in Asia start selling dollars. At first, it looks like a normal market move. Currencies go up and down all the time. But then the selling accelerates. Something is different. Something is wrong. By 3 a.m., the dollar is falling so fast that screens can't keep up. European banks join the sell-off, dumping American assets as if the financial system has caught fire. At 4 a.m., alarms go off at the Federal Reserve. By 5:15 a.m., the dollar has lost 30% of its value. By sunrise, it has lost 50%. And now the consequences hit everyday life like a wave. A mother in Ohio pushes a grocery cart down the aisle, confused by the numbers she sees. Milk is $9. Eggs are $12. Bread is $8. Yesterday these were normal prices. Today they are shocking. She pulls out her phone. She refreshes the news. She doesn't understand the charts or currency graphs, but she does understand one thing. Her family's food now costs twice as much, and nobody can tell her why. Meanwhile, at a gas station outside Phoenix, cars snake around the block. Drivers shout and argue. The price board flashes numbers that don't even make sense. $14 a gallon, $15. People try to fill up before the price rises again. Some simply can't afford it and drive away with half tanks and rising panic. America, the land of abundance, suddenly feels the sharp edge of scarcity, not because supplies vanished, but because the dollar that buys everything has been cut in half. While Americans panic in the streets, the rest of the world is scrambling even faster. In Tokyo, government officials crowd around glowing screens. Japan holds more than $1 trillion in U.S. reserves. Now those reserves are melting like ice in the sun. Convert everything we can, the finance minister orders. Shift to euros. Shift to gold. Move now. Billions of dollars flood out of the American financial system within minutes. In Dubai, oil traders watch as contracts priced in U.S. dollars swing wildly. For nearly 80 years, oil has been priced almost entirely in dollars, the famous petrodollar system. Today, that system collapses in real time. Starting now, one major producer announces, "We are pricing oil in a basket of currencies. The euro, the yuan, and gold, the world's most important commodity, the one that moves ships, planes, trucks, and entire economies, has just abandoned the U.S. dollar. The geopolitical consequences are enormous. In Washington, the president meets with congressional leaders and the heads of the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. The mood in the room is a strange mix of disbelief and dread. The Federal Reserve chair speaks first. "We have to stabilize the currency immediately. That means raising interest rates fast." The Treasury Secretary shakes his head. "If we push rates too high, we choke the economy. We trigger mass layoffs." The president scans the room. "We're out of good options," he says quietly. And for the first time in decades, America feels like a nation reacting to events it does not fully control. The public, of course, feels it instantly. Lines form outside banks. ATM screens flash messages limiting withdrawals. People who never worried about money are suddenly frightened. A retiree in Florida refreshes his investment account again and again, watching the real value of his life savings crumble. He whispers, "I did everything right. I never gambled. I saved my whole life." And yet, through no fault of his own, half his purchasing power is gone. When a currency collapses, the first domino to fall is wages. Workers suddenly realize their paychecks by only half of what they bought yesterday. They demand raises. Companies can't provide them. Businesses cut staff. Unemployment surges. Rent shoots upward as landlords struggle to keep up with rising costs. Energy becomes brutally expensive. Every imported item, electronics, medicine, machinery, raw materials, now cost twice as much because the dollar is weak. Even things made in America get more expensive because almost every product depends on something from overseas. Supply chains buckle. Stores reduce inventory. Some companies collapse. Small businesses, especially, find themselves unable to replace inventory without massive losses. People who can afford to do so flee into assets. Gold surges to levels nobody believed possible. Cryptocurrencies explode in price as people grasp for anything not tied to the dollar. But volatility makes them risky safe havens. A sense of desperation spreads. Fear becomes contagious. The government fights back with historic interventions. The Federal Reserve raises interest rates to levels not seen since the 1980s, 20%. Mortgage rates leap so high that the housing market freezes. Auto loans evaporate. Credit cards become debt traps. But the brutal rate hike slows the free fall of the dollar. Congress passes emergency price controls on essentials like food, gas, and rent. On paper, it sounds like relief. In reality, shelves empty. Gas stations ration fuel. A black market emerges almost instantly, with goods traded quietly at double the legal price. Throughout history, from ancient Rome to the 1970s United States, price controls have always created shortages. This time is no different. Internationally, the U.S. negotiates a rescue package with allied nations. Japan, the EU, and Canada agree to support the dollar, but at a cost. They demand spending cuts, financial reforms, and new rules that limit America's freedom to print money. It's the same kind of deal the U.S. once forced on struggling countries. Now the roles are reversed, and the irony is bitter. Slowly, painfully, the crisis begins to stabilize. Inflation still exists, but it finally cools. The dollar stops its free fall. Businesses start operating again. After 6 brutal months, the country begins to breathe, but the scars remain. Millions lost jobs. Thousands of businesses failed. Retirement accounts were shattered. The psychological shock, realizing the dollar isn't invincible, stays with an entire generation. And here is where the historian steps in. Because while this scenario is hypothetical, the patterns behind it are not. Every major currency collapse in history follows the same roadmap: erosion of trust, sudden loss of confidence, foreign panic, domestic chaos, government intervention, and finally a slow stabilization at a weaker, humbler level. The Dutch guilder ruled world trade for nearly 2 centuries before collapsing. The British pound dominated global finance before slowly losing its position. Every empire believed its currency would last forever. Every empire was wrong. Today, the United States faces warning signs that echo those earlier declines: record national debt, rising geopolitical tensions, global efforts to move away from the dollar, increasing reliance on money printing to support the economy. None of these guarantee a collapse. The U.S. dollar is still the strongest currency in the world by a massive margin. But history teaches a simple, uncomfortable lesson: no currency stays supreme forever. The story you just heard is not a prediction. It's a reminder that trust is the real foundation of money. Not gold, not paper, not digital code. Trust. When people trust a currency, it becomes unstoppable. When they stop trusting it, even for a moment, it can fall faster than anyone expects. And the greatest danger is not the collapse itself. The greatest danger is the belief that it could never happen. So the real question we face is not what if the dollar lost half its value overnight. The real question is, are we repeating the same patterns that brought down every currency before it? Because when you study financial history, the similarities are impossible to ignore. The buildup always looks harmless: slowly increasing debt, quiet geopolitical shifts, small cracks in the global system, and then, suddenly, a spark, one event that transforms decades of pressure into a moment of shock. We don't know what that spark will be: a conflict, a cyber attack, a market miscalculation, a political crisis. But we do know this: financial systems rarely collapse without warning. The warning signs are always there. The question is whether we choose to see them. And that leads to the final thought. If a single night could change the value of the dollar, then the events leading to that night are already in motion long before anyone realizes it. The question now is not whether the dollar is strong today. It is strong. The real question is whether we are paying attention to the forces that could weaken it tomorrow. Because in financial history, the greatest shifts always come from the places no one expects until it's too late. And perhaps the most unsettling truth is this: the next great turning point in global currency power may already be unfolding. The world can feel it, economists can sense it, and most people have no idea it's happening. The only question left is, what event will start the next great shift? And when it happens, will we be ready?